Well, hello again, and welcome to Interview with DJ Nocturna. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, share. My guest today is Manhattan-based artist, percussionist, keyboardist, and composer Nevaris, all the way originally from New York. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
For joining me. Yeah, congratulations on this latest LP that you're gonna that is already released, right?
Yeah, it came out on the second. What day was that? No, was that day before yesterday?
Yeah. Oh, we're just
Friday.
wow,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Came out on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. So from what I can see here, you've got quite wonderful reviews from Carlos Santana. You know,
Yeah, he gave the endorsement to the record, which was super cool.
yeah, and then of course you're working with the music legend Bill Laswell on this
Yeah.
album as well, with several other ones in the past. But before we go further, let's talk a little bit about yourself. I know you've been you have a quite a musical background. Uh,
Yeah.
and I know you were born. I don't know if you were born and raised in New York.
Born and raised in New York. Yeah. My whole childhood. Yeah. Most of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into the kind of music that you love to produce and create?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, my parents were both musicians, but they were classical musicians. They came to New York for music, and then when I grew up in New York, um, there was just so much happening in terms of like early hip hop and Latin music and just and literally in the street pretty much. And we lived in a third floor apartment, so I was around music all the time, and I gravitated over time towards like funk music, I think. Um, and then later, I got into dub, and then kind of through a long journey started trying to combine things and different genres into some kind of fusion. That's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah, and I know that you also co-created an event in New York, right? In the early days.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Uncommon.
Uncommon.
Yeah.
Uncommon.
Can you tell us about that? That's interesting.
Yeah, I actually thank you for asking. Nobody ever asked me about that. I think Uncommon was probably one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of in my life. And it was just to being at the right time, in the right place at the right time, because I did it in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and I didn't have anything to do with Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I live far from Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I wasn't a part of that scene at all, but I happened to go see a friend perform down there. And I was just, talking to the booking person and gave him my CD, and he loved it. And he invited me to do a show, and he loved that. And he was pretty much just like, why don't you put a night together? And so we did it every month, uh, 24 months in a row. And it was 2 years every month for 2 straight years, which was a pretty amazing thing for a nightclub at that time to be here. Like, you have this night from 11 until 4, and we close it at 4. You have, 5 hours, do whatever you want. And I did it for 2 years. It was great.
So is that a music event?
It was actually, we had a stage, so we had music, we had DJs sets, like between acts, and then we always had a closing DJ set that went until 4. And we had a lot of dancers come through. It was multi-genre, multimedia. We had filmmakers that were screening their films. So DJs, live music, dance, film, like visual art, just this like festival of craziness.
Wow.
It was great.
And I know that you're also the creator and founder of the music collective called Loud Apartment.
Yes, yes. And that came out of Uncommon because we were pretty much like the house band every night. And we were playing like with some pretty great people that came by. So we said we need a name. We called it Loud Apartment. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And that became a musical project in its own right.
and that's still continuing on right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like we put out an album called System Breakdown as Loud Apartment in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and we put out an album called New Future as Loud Apartment in 2022. And it was all the same musicians playing on this one. And Bill said, "Hey, let's put this one out. Nevaris is a good name. Let's use that name." And he put it on his label, and I was like, "Cool, let's do it." It's pretty, and it's pretty much the same except a different name. And there's no singing, there's no vocals, so there's purely instrumental. it's more focused on dub, and it's out on his label. So it kind of shifted the project in a different direction.
Wow. So
Yeah.
now, how did you get to work with Bill Laswell? Tell us the how that started.
I met Bill probably around 2006, so that's a long time ago. I met him through Hawkman, or Garrison Hawk, a great reggae singer. Yeah, he's just one of my best friends. I gave him a CD. I said, "Can you give it to Bill?" And he did. And he never listened. Bill never listened to it. And then he told me he was going to be hanging out with him one night. And I came by and I said, "Hey, did you listen to the CD?" He said, "No." So I got up and this is back like 2006 when not everything was Spotify, but they still had CD players and you know and I went to the waitress. I said, "We put this CD on," and she said, "All right, fine." So she put it on, and I sat back down. I was like, "Okay, well, here's the CD," and he liked it, and he agreed to mix it, and so we started with that.
And is that from the Loud Apartment?
Yeah, Get Up. It's called Get Up, Get Down. There was an earlier version of it, and then I loved what he did so much that I actually started writing. So I wrote more material, which ended up on that. And over a long time, it became like a collaboration. And he and Yoko became good friends. But it really became a collaboration that continues to this day.
Wow. And so now you have this this album, this LP is called Reverberations,
Yeah.
and is out on M.O.D. Reloaded.
Yeah.
It's released June 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And how many tracks are there? I think it's about
8 tracks.
8 tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
And he produced it, Bill Laswell, the
Yeah.
legendary.
He played bass on it, he produced it, and he co-wrote it, and he put it out on his label. So it's a very much a Bill Laswell production.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Wow, that's amazing. So
Thanks.
tell us the inspiration behind the album title.
I think it was really just about energy. Like there was something cool happening at that time. There's been a lot of, challenges, and Bill has had a lot of challenges with health and the pandemic and touring being canceled. There's been a lot but there was like a certain period where things were getting better. We were like, let's get back in the studio. And it was like a really kind of like a positive little moment where we were like, let's make work while we can. And it's really just the reverberations to me. I don't know, the energy. There's something happening. I can't quite explain it, but the album to me is really just about capturing a certain energy.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
I know you released the second single, Interference.
Yeah, I love that one. That's my favorite one.
And yeah, and that's one was inspired by, I know you mentioned New York City.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about I know it's a vibe, the vibe of the city?
Yeah. It's a very New York track. And being a kid in New York, and just for most of my life being in New York, there's an energy of the city. I mean, I consider myself a New York musician because it's like, well, you kind of have to align your sound with some place, just like some people is Nashville or San Francisco or whatever. For me, it's like I'm a New York. I grew up in New York. There's an energy in New York, and that to me, that track kind of um, reps New York. And the drummer Lockatron is from New York, and DJ Logic's from New York. So it's a city vibe. It's a city feel. It's something that I feel like that's the best way I can describe it.
Are you, and then of course, you want to speak a little bit about the lineup? I know you got quite a lineup.
Yeah. So I really like this group of musicians. So Bill played bass, and when I first met Bill, he mixed some stuff, and then we actually ended up. I forgot to tell you that the very first thing I did with Bill was actually before I met him that night, because I produced a song for Hawkman, which Bill mixed. So once I heard the mix come back on that song, I was like, man, that's nothing like I've ever heard. But when we did System Breakdown in 2020, that was the first time I was ever collaborating with him where he was playing bass. And so that's been amazing because he's such an incredible bass player. And then Lockatron on drums. And then Will Bernard, who's a great guitar player. Peter Apfelbaum, who's just a great multi-instrumentalist. And then my friend Matt Dickey joined into the project. Myself. Please tell me I'm not forgetting anybody. I think
Yeah,
that's
how did you get? How about DJ Logic?
DJ Logic. Thank you. DJ Logic, yeah, he's such a huge part of the whole sound of the whole thing. And honestly, that album would not yeah, it would not be the same without DJ Logic. I met DJ Logic through Uncomun. I did Uncomun in 2008, and we had Bernie Worrell come, and I met Bernie Worrell through Bill. It's all connected, you know. And I just met Logic, and he was like, "This is dope. This is great." He wrote his number on a napkin and like a marker, and I was like, all right, this is a guy I want to work with. And yeah, he's been on the last 3 recordings, and he's a huge part of the whole sound.
Yeah, this is a great lineup, actually. Wow. And I know it just became magical, right? I was reading
really
the press release.
Yeah.
It just like everything just sync, just like how something just flows and you just
Yeah,
know.
it really did. It was not forced at all, and it's so funny, right? I look back to bands and arguing. There was no discord whatsoever. There was not an argument. There was not a. It was just, and I think part of that is working with Bill and knowing that there's kind of like, somebody that knows what they're doing. People kind of come up and show up, and nobody's worried about anything because they know the project's in good hands. So there's a certain kind of confidence that everybody brings to the studio because of that.
Yeah. Wow.
And we worked on, at this point, that same exact lineup. It's our 3rd record in 3 years. So we're pretty cool with each other.
Yeah, because this one here, because this is not part of a Loud Apartment. This is a separate thing, right?
It's a separate thing, but the musicians are the same.
Oh,
We called it, Bill put it out on his label, and he wanted to call it Nevaris. He said it's a good name. And it comes from my mother's family. I like the name. So I said, cool, let's call it Nevaris instead of Loud Apartment. But the difference is it's the same musicians. The difference is the name, and there's no singing, there's no vocals. So it's a different concept, I guess. Purely instrumental.
So how did you I know you also co-founded I might mispronounce this, Nolej Records?
It's supposed to be Knowledge. We
Knowledge.
just spelled it that way because we were young and thought it sounded cool, and it's just been a lot of trouble. But it's supposed to be Knowledge, spelled incorrectly. Nolej, Knowledge. There you have it. Yeah.
It's like it's a record label.
Yeah, it's like, what does it mean to have a record label? We had no distribution. My brother and I had this idea to create the label. I put out 3 records, distributed through Spotify, but working with M.O.D. and distribution through Red Eye has been very cool. I see the difference. I feel the difference. Having a product go into stores around the world is like a different experience. So I'm excited about that.
Wow. Congratulations. This is great. I was listening to it sounds great. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
I love the work of Bill Laswell. I love his spiritual albums. I know he's worked with Jah Rubble and the Invaders of the Heart.
Yeah.
I love that Om Namah Shiva, and I love all the sacred system and that Osana, that yoga kind of. Yeah, it's wonderful. I would love to see that. You guys do that sometime in the future.
Yeah. He's got such a vast catalog of work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think he inspires everybody somehow, from different walks of life, different genres of music. Because I'm from the post-punk genre of music. That's how I grew up, listening to 80s and post-punk and all that. But that too, and that's why Jah Wobble, being with in that style of music and the post-punk era and everything like that. But I love the spiritual genres out there.
Yeah.
That style,
Definitely.
I guess I don't know, you call it world or whatever you want to call it, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess the world, I don't know. I don't even know what that means anymore. It's all
I know there's so many genres.
Yeah.
So how did you connect with Shameless Promotion PR? Because Shauna is just amazing. I think she makes her clients all happy. She works really hard.
Through Josh Werner, who so he did a record with Bill, and I saw that it was getting some activity, and that was the connection. Because otherwise, I've had records that in the past, no distribution, nobody's getting it out there, no press, and you might as well just stay home and just play, which is fine too. But yeah, it's been helpful to get the music out there, and it seems to be. I mean, it only came out 2 days ago. I can't believe that. It's been a solid couple of days.
So
It's been a fun.
your album cover, it has that spiral kind of, so tell us about that.
The cover is the lion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me grab it. I have it.
Oh, maybe I'm looking at the interference one.
Yeah. That's for the interference, but the cover is the lion.
Are you a Leo?
I'm not. That lion came from Washington Heights. My brother's a Leo,
Oh,
where I lived for 20 years in Upper Manhattan. And I was just walking around, and I would see that the lions up at the tops of the buildings. That actually came from a photograph. Just up at the tops of the buildings, they had these lions that were built into all around Washington Heights. So started to notice that, and then I took a picture of it and I made it into the cover.
so how does Carlos Santana? I know he said, "Love this. You made a work of supreme creativity."
Yeah. How did that happen? It came through Bill. Bill knows Carlos very well. Bill knows, I mean, for him, these things are normal. Like, he knows,
Yeah.
Herbie Hancock and Carlos Santana. That's normal for him. It's not normal for most people to be like, and he just said, "Hey, we should send it to to Santana," and I'm like, okay. And then he said
That's
it, but
amazing.
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm down. I mean, he has told me about that possibility for a very long time. So in the past, he'd been like, we could send something, and this time he was like, we should. So partly the difference was the music being ready. It wasn't like suddenly the connection. It's always been there. That possibility, he mentioned that to me probably over 10 years ago. But it was like, okay, we should send it. And they sent it and got a response right away. And they shared some of the initial just feedback, and then Bill asked Carlos to write an official endorsement, which he did. But it all came from a genuine, like, enthusiastic appreciation for the music, which is pretty much one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. At this point, I'm pretty good. Like, like I'm what can I complain about now? So yeah, I'm very
Great.
grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, you work hard. I mean, you can tell the music is just wonderful. And
That's
congratulations on that. Thank you for doing this interview. I learn
my
something
pleasure.
new all the time. I'm always amazed at Bill Laswell and all his collaboration. And
Yeah.
so if people want to find the music, what's the best way?
Uh, there's a website called reverberations.info that should be ready now. It should have been ready yesterday. But otherwise, if you just search for Nevaris and Reverberations, or Bill Laswell Reverberations for that matter, it's pretty much out there. So
Nevaris. So tell
yeah.
us what Nevaris means again. I know you were telling me earlier.
It comes from Nevares, which is my mother's last name, and came from my
Oh,
grandfather. And it actually just was misspelled on something, and my real name is Agustin. It's not a good performer's name. Nobody could pronounce it, and I just saw it written down, and I just took it as my music name 15 years ago, and now I can't take it back, and I like it. So there it is. Yeah.
oh. So okay, so the album is out now. If people want to check that out, it's Reverberations, the LP on M.O.D. Reloaded,
Yeah.
and they can also find that. Just Google it, and you can check out the music of Bill Laswell as well.
Yeah.
Laswell as well. All
Yeah.
right.
That was nice. I like that. Play on words. Yeah, it's out. It's in CD format in retail and available on digital as well. And that's yeah.
And vinyl maybe in the future?
Yeah, that's the idea. I know we submitted artwork for vinyl, and I know there was a schedule. It'll be down the road, and nothing is guaranteed with vinyl. But yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, and I know you play several different instruments, right?
Yeah, my main instrument is percussion,
Oh yeah.
but also piano and voice.
So do you think you guys will be playing in different places with this releasing this album?
Well, I wasn't sure, but for the CD release concept, I got together in the studio with the whole band, except for Bill, because Bill really has been dealing with some health challenges. And the best way to stay up on top of that and what's going on is through the Facebook page, the Bill Laswell Facebook page. There's a lot of updates on he's doing a lot better, thankfully. But we got together in the studio with Jonathan Marone, who was the bass player for Groove Collective, which is an awesome bass player. And then with DJ Logic and the full lineup, I added my friend Angel came and this percussionist named Jojo who played with Fela back in the day. So we just had this like pretty insane lineup, and we played all the songs live in the studio and filmed it and recorded it, and I was very happy with how that came out. So I think that will be kind of like a proof of concept for the band live, and then it could lead to some shows.
Yeah.
Time will tell, because it was fun to play it just straight forward live. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got DJ Logic like actually doing the turntables, right?
Yeah, he was there. He was there for the last three records, and he was there in the studio, and just he's become a friend, a great human being, great person, super creative, and what he does. Yeah, Reverberations would not be the same without his involvement, because there's something about the way that and Bill's treatment of the turntablism mixed with all the other percussion, and it's, I mean, only Bill could have created that. No one else,
Yeah. Yeah.
so special. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful. I have a lot of gratitude for everything that has transpired. So
Yeah, and I'm grateful you came on the show as well. Thank you and
yeah,
congratulations again. The
thank you so much.
Reverberations LP is out now. Nevaris with the producer, of course, the legendary Bill Laswell, involved in this album with DJ Logic and so many others. So thank
Yes,
you for joining me. Thank you for joining me,
thank
and
you.
always a pleasure. Congratulations, and maybe we'll have you back on the show when you have the next one with. I'm sure you will.
Anytime. It's going to be called Funk City. The next one is going to be a lot of fun. All right. Have a
Okay.
beautiful
Okay.
night.
One moment. One moment.